if you're watching this, you're already thinking about running a D&D campaign, or you want to improve. And that's a good thing. You should do it. Just go ahead and do it. Don't watch this video. Close it. Turn off your computer. Go meet up with your friends and do it, because I believe in you. If they're still here, let's go.
The kids are asleep. Let's talk some D&D.
Hell yeah. One of the main problems people have with D&D is finding a game. One of the reasons for that is because a lot of people don't want to DM or are scared to. So the best way to get more people having fun playing D&D is to build the confidence of the person watching this video so they know that they can do it their way and people are going to love it.
So somebody might be wondering why. Why would you DM? I guess there's a few reasons why you might want to GM, game master, dungeon master. One might be that you've got a story to tell or to play out, and you just want to get into it. It could be a natural progression from player to game master or dungeon master. And it might just be something that's naturally going to happen after so long of being a player. It's time to be a DM.
Also, if you're one of those people that's a perfectionist and you get frustrated when you're playing somebody else's game because you feel they miss things that could have happened, or they don't pick up on things you wanted to happen, or you can see other players, you feel like they maybe aren't enjoying it as much as they could be because somebody's not taking into account their backstory, you might be the type of person that needs to do this, to step up to the plate and show people what you're made of.
Optimize the game. Another one might be your current DM just needs a break. I used to run like that. We'd have two people as DMs in the group, and I do this week, you do next week. Means not only does the DM get to be a player, but he gets a little bit more time to prep between this session and the next. And if your GM isn't ready, the other one should be ready to go.
Yeah, that's something that you and I have sort of going at the moment, which is good fun. I also think it keeps it a little bit fresh because with your campaigns, we dip back into 3.5, we dip into 5th edition, and we're just about to begin our campaign with you going into El Terrell, Descent into Avernus. I'm very excited to play it. And the amount of prep you've done for reading and understanding the lore and the deals and the demons and the devils and the transitions and the bargaining and the soul coins and all this reading that you've done is fantastic. And it makes it so much more rewarding for the people that play in your campaigns.
Yep.
I know for a fact if that was me, we'd probably be 4 weeks in, everyone would be level 7, and somebody just found a BFG. Very vastly different DMing styles, but we both generally tend to the people of our groups. You tending to their need for role-playing and actual realism and sensical behavior. Me, not so much. Stealth missions. It's all about the stealth missions.
Well, the final ones I can think of might be that there are no game masters around, and it's out of necessity. Someone's just got to bite the bullet. Might as well be you.
That was actually how it happened for me. My first time at DMing. Basically rocked up to Adventure League, very keen to continue playing with my character, and 5 people that were there were told the same thing, that unfortunately there's no space for you. You can go home. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. Hand me that random campaign. And off we went.
I'll read it in the room as we enter it.
Yeah, I just played to the players. But
Yeah.
no, it was a rewarding experience actually, and it was the reason I'm probably still playing D&D now. Watching these people go from about to walk out the door crying to a giant smile on their face and engaging and communicating and bouncing off each other. And yeah, a lot of those guys played together for quite a few weeks after that, and a few friendships were made. So it was, sometimes it's necessity. So yeah, you are right. That's perfect. Sorry, just some fond memories as I stare off pensively into the beyond.
All right. So some things that might help you get into the game. One of my first ones, I guess, would be, ideally, if you can, be a player. Be a player in that particular campaign. Start to understand the rules and play a couple of the different types. That way, you know, if you're in a mech warrior campaign, you've played a mech warrior, and you've played if you're in a magic campaign, you've played a mage and a fighter. You've played a couple of the different types. Star Wars, you played a scoundrel or something like that, and you've played a Jedi. You understand how the rules are going to work. And that player interaction is really going to help you. Also, just paying attention at the table. As other people are playing, look over, like, oh, they're casting that spell. Oh, what does that do? How does that work? Getting that will give you the familiarity that will assist you by running and start building that confidence.
Yeah. Being a player is important. One thing I would strongly recommend is podcasts. And now when I say this, many DMs will have to die just so they can roll about in their graves after I say it. But listening to Critical Role and other podcasts like that, focusing on the player side of it, each player, what they knew, even listening to the Talks Machina and that sort of thing, where they go through the processes that they went through to make decisions.
Yep.
And then listening to another DM talk about it, how they made their decisions, how they let their players lead them, or how they pushed their players or guided them. A lot of these things, looking into the background of a game and actually just hearing someone discussing it or discussing it with them, if you have that opportunity to talk to a DM, it actually helps you form the way you think when you go to run a game. So if you are more interested in why Luke chose that, and then you analyze that and you go, okay, I really like how he did that, I'm going to do it differently, you will become your own DM, which is the most important thing. Because you're never going to be as good as somebody else as being them. That's just how it is.
Starting to be professional DMs now, and we've all got other things we do in life.
Yeah.
All playing is always everything.
And for me, it's one of those things where, like, the first time I DM'd, I made sure that there was a person at the table that I trusted, that I'd heard them DM before, and I knew I could do it, and then afterwards debrief and actually say, what did you like, what didn't you like? Mm-hmm. And that was important for me, because at least I know there's someone there telling me what mistakes I made, because that does help a lot. Like, there's nothing wrong with playing with your friends and working it out as you go. That's actually perfect.
Yep.
But if you have someone you can trust and you respect, and you're happy to receive constructive criticism, it can skyrocket you to a place where you want to be and where your players will enjoy.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And with that, I guess when you play the game, you start getting a familiarity with the rules. You're going to, and that's why I say play a mage and a pilot and a this and a that and a couple of the different ones. That way you'll start to get that familiarity. Of course, if you've never played a caster, you've avoided them all, you're going to have a caster in your group. Someone's going to want to do it. And having an understanding of magic or the force or piloting or whatever it is, other than just running up and punching someone, will help you. And once you've got that familiarity, things will just start. I've had players in my games for games and games and games. They still can't tell the difference between a D12 and a D20.
That's very true. It's one of those things. The one thing I would also say is having experienced people at the table is extremely important if you want to cover the classic points. So having someone that can pull you aside and do something and talk to you afterwards and discuss it is important. But you also have to have the strength to know that this is your game. And while you're running it, if someone talks over the top of you or starts telling you how the rules are and it's breaking the game, there is nothing wrong with you standing up and saying, listen, mate, this is the rules as I understand it. This is what we're going to run with this session. Respect me enough to let me play this out, and afterwards we can discuss it. Or not, depending on how comfortable you are with criticism. But if it's a quick thing like, hey mate, no, if you equal their AC, you hit them, or you have to, something like that, yeah, that's a quick fix. But if they're actually trying to attack your style or the way you handle dark vision or something like that, just say, sorry mate, this is how we're playing, this is my understanding. I'm not going to relearn D&D in the next 5 minutes. We're playing these rules for now, and we'll move on. So you've got to have a bit of strength at the table. It is your table. You are sharing it with them. That is true. But losing friendship, ruining the game for everyone is just not on. And if they were your friend or someone you respect, they should know that. That's one of those things. Drawing a barrier and holding firm on your own beliefs and understandings until a time where you can learn. But that's just me. Like, knowing there's someone experienced at the table that can guide you is great, but make sure you're ready to pull them up if they're ruining the game and just say, listen, I appreciate you being here. Give me enough rope to hang myself.
Now, we don't always have this luxury, but knowing your players sometimes will help. I mean, hopefully you're a GM who, if there's no one else around and you've just gathered up your friends and no one knows what they're doing, well, hopefully you know your friends. And so you're gathering people for that. Or hopefully someone else has been playing and it's now your turn to step up. You know your friends, you know the players, and this will help. And one of the big ones I've seen reading up on Reddit and a few things would be that you hear all these problems and that a GM sprang this on the group and the players don't want to play it. The GM sprung a surprise, a gothic horror or whatever, or anything on them, and the players don't want to play that. They want to play what they want to play. So potentially in prepping yourself for being a game master or dungeon master, you talk to your players and find out what do they want to play. It speaks a lot if they've got enthusiastic investment in what you're doing rather than you trying to drag them into it and they don't really want to do it.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, that definitely is a big thing. It's also heading towards the session 0 territory, which is definitely in this. Like, knowing how to run a session 0, I think we should cover on its own. That's a huge section, and being able to build it up and play it that way. One of the big things for DMing is a basic understanding of respect and courtesy, and also, hang on a sec, my dogs are about to bark. No? Okay. Basic understanding of social interactions. So while you're at the table, while you're learning, it's not terribly important. It's important, but being able to control the table to make sure everyone has a chance to shine is higher level GMing and DMing. But before you DM, when you play, at some stage you will play with someone that's dominant at the table. I can guarantee it. When that happens, remember that feeling and just keep an open eye, because if there are people at your table who are inexperienced and trying something for the first time, they will fade away into the background if you let them. And it can make it very hard for them to want to come back. And if you want your game to run and you want to be a DM that people want to come and see, you'll make those players feel special in some way, remembering their names, taking notes, understanding their characters' motivations. Like, that is higher level play, But a good example is this: is the first time I DM'd, I didn't know what I was doing. I was at Adventure League. I grabbed the book module, whatever it is, and I just opened up an A4 page and did the old name, race, class, subclass, level, and then I added an extra tab at the end, something special about your character.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the people wrote, "I'm a princess." Another person wrote something along those lines. Somebody else wrote, "I like to eat something." And I made it a special thing that every NPCs would walk up to them and go, "Oh, Princess Starlight. Wow." Just a little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just completely drew these people in. And all of a sudden it was the first time any of us had played together. And all of a sudden we're all contributing to this story that we just picked up. So I think it was one of those things that made the session.
Mm-hmm.
And just, yeah, everybody loves to tell you about their character. And if you never ask in a game of Adventure League or something, then you're not really doing your job.
Yeah. Another good one, obviously, when prepping to be a GM, is spend some time reading the adventure. If it's going to take you a couple of weeks to read it, spend a couple of weeks reading it. Get to know the adventure. I mean, some campaigns go for a year and a half, 2 years, and there's a fair bit of reading in some of these books. But
yeah,
commit to it. Get ahead of yourself. Make sure you know what's coming up, and read the adventure. Understand it. Make it yours. If you've got to reread it again, and make it something that you understand. And then from there, when you start running and playing your games, you'll know what's coming up. When the players skip around something, you'll already have it in your head. I know where this is going, and this is how I'm going to adjust my story.
Having said that, reading their story, actually reading about the NPCs and learning about them,
mm-hmm.
and coming up with your concept of them. If you have an NPC in your book that is meant to be with them for a long time, take a note, either make a plan of what accent you're going to use or take a note when you choose one. I actually had a character in one of the campaigns I run last time that every time I started doing his voice, he had a different accent. I think we went through Spanish, French, I think South African, we just everywhere. And they're like, "What's going on with this guy?" And I was like, "Oh God, I'm going to make up a story reason why his accent keeps changing. He's been killed and replaced multiple times." But it's one of those things that had I made a simple note, life would have been a lot easier for everyone. Probably not as funny, but enjoyable. As a DM, I would like to recommend 2 accents that everyone can do. The Hulk Hogan, "How you doing there, brother?" And throwing in a little bit of the Arnold Schwarzenegger with the "Hello, I am here." Just a little bit of a little German, Austrian, sort of not too Hitler, a little bit back from Hitler, bit lower tone, muscular. And both, if you want someone to love a character in your game and you can do it, throw a Hulk Hogan accent in it, and I swear to God, they would take that character everywhere. It's the strongest accent I have in my arsenal, and people generally enjoy it. But it's one I've found most people can do, and all you got to do is say the word "brother" repeatedly for no apparent reason in every sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll do all right, brother.
When your players pick something that you haven't played or don't have a good understanding of, make sure you read up on it. If it's a subclass you haven't played, if it's a specific order of the Jedi, if it's a specific aspect, mechanic of the game that's going to work for you, read up on it. I mean, you have to read up on all of them, just specifically the ones the players are actually playing. And from there, you'll develop and grow from there.
Yeah. One thing I do is read nothing but subclasses. And I think even though I own them all, I've read one adventure.
Mm-hmm.
and I interpreted it poorly. That was the one we recently played.
Some of them read like stereo instructions. If they're not thrilling, they're not entertaining, but it's information you've got to have.
Yeah. It's I like to think of those adventures as Lego blocks. I love the way that you have a campaign module, you'll go through it, you read it, study it, you build the world, you brief the characters so well on it, and then you sort of slowly build and meld them all together into a real believable world. And I love that, but I have never been able to do that. I'd like to thank my brain chemistry for chasing squirrels, and I like to think that these modules are all just Lego blocks that build the Minecraft server that is my world. Yep. Everything's blocky and rough. Everyone has a Hulk Hogan accent, or French. I like French as well. And everyone just runs around doing whatever they want and venting from a hard day of work. So it's one of those things where completely different styles. And this is kind of what Luke and I are trying to say to you. If you're going to be a DM or a GM, there's really nothing apart from owning the books and having an idea of how you want to go about it and the sort of DM you want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more of just do it and then work on your weaknesses while really showing off your strengths, because everyone has them.
Along with knowing your game, you can also know things about, as I have done, the world. Know about the deities. Know about the history. Know about some of the locations are immediately around. Playing Star Wars, know a little about a couple of planets that people are going to want to go to. And for D&D, for Star Wars, for all this sort of stuff, there is a world of information out there that's just waiting for you. There's YouTube, podcasts, all sorts of things just describing, going through. I'm currently studying up on more Ravenloft worlds in preparation for the new book about to be released in a couple of months. Just start reading, start learning, start knowing as much as you can. And if you have to delay your game a couple of weeks because it's going to take you a little bit of time to get ahead, so be it. People can have a couple of weeks off role playing and then come back keen, or someone else can run a one shot and you can then get in ready to go with your campaign. That little bit of preparation will help you be a GM.
Yeah. I still am going to go back to the podcasts. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say listening to a podcast that sits well with you on your style and your understanding of how people should interact in a game like this is a big thing. So a lot of people that you talk to in Adventure League and a few other places are like Matt Mercer ruined D&D. Matt Mercer, I probably shouldn't say this without some sort of thing so it doesn't get taken out of context. Critical Role, because people rock up to Adventure League expecting to be able to role play on that level with strangers. And like, while I have seen role playing in Adventure League every now and again, which was a nice surprise, you shouldn't expect it. And you can't turn up to a DM's game and tell him how he's going to run it. That's unfair. So if you show up to an Adventure League, or even just put your name out socially on Facebook or something and find a party to GM for, having that discussion with them about how you're going to play, this is my expectations, going through it, very important. But I completely lost my line of thinking at the start there. Critical Role. So yeah. So finding a podcast that suits you can help you build the strength that you need to actually do something. For me, it was the Adventure Zone. Mm-hmm. So listening to Critical Role made me want to play D&D, because I love acting. I love social interactions. I love talking to people. I like hearing stories. So all these things are all in Critical Role, and they're woven together by experts. Like, most of those people have played games a lot of their lives, or known people that have, and are voice actors and actors and whatever else they are. Yeah. Whereas the Adventure Zone didn't inspire me to play in D&D. It inspired me to GM or DM, because they start off with what's the adventure you ran with your family, where you start off in a cart? The one you killed me when I was a wizard.
Lost Mines of Fandelver?
Lost Mines of Fandelver. They run that. Before the end of the first episode, they are so far off script. Like, they make a friend with, some random enemy, and they like strike a bargain with them, and then that character becomes just a absolute schmozzle of hilarity. These guys are just bouncing off each other. They completely just throw the book to the wind and just start saying stuff. and then all of a sudden, they're flying through alternate dimensions and detectives and this and that. And I don't know whether that was all planned or whether he just planned per episode, but it was so random and so crazy. And like, after the first couple episodes, they had a thing where they just put a token in, like a lolly machine, and turned it, and it would give them a special item or like a special ability or something crazy. And I just thought, oh, that's right, it's my game. There are no rules. I can do whatever I want. We could still have fun doing whatever we want. And it sort of opened my eyes.
Yep.
So if you don't know how you're going to DM, listening to podcasts, listening to other people do it, or talking to DMs about different styles could be a way to go. And as far as podcasts go, the three sort of ones I'd recommend is Critical Role for the serious, Adventure Zone for the not so serious, and Not Another D&D podcast for people that just like comedy.
Okay. Put some links down below. The doodly-doo.
I don't know how to do links. No, just kidding. Yeah.
I guess another one will be is you're a GM. We've now talked about knowing some of the rules, knowing your story and some of the world around you. And I guess the other, there's going to be some other things that are going to be involved, such as, and you started touching on it earlier, is you will potentially be in control of the table. If players around aren't enjoying people, another aspect might be that, and you alluded to it earlier, Mitch, was that you're potentially going to be in charge of the table. Socially, the GM is usually the person who's in charge of running things, keeping things civil, making a call on stuff. If someone's being vulgar, rude, or that isn't wanted at your table, you're going to have to address it. If you can't talk to people, pull people aside and tell them, hey, like, no, man, I don't really want that at my table. If you want to do it, that's fine. We'll just cut scene and say you did it. But, you're going to have to take control of these people in some way or another. And not taking control of them will potentially be an issue. But as Mitch was saying earlier, like, we'll getting into a session 0, running through a list of things to cover off there. That's probably a real good start to go next. That's probably what we're going to have to do next on this our next videos. But socially, you're in charge of this group.
One encounter I had recently, and this is a big one for players. One thing I've always struggled with, I have no issue telling people when they're doing the wrong thing or when they're upsetting people. But when I'm a player at somebody else's table, it's that feeling almost like you're rousing on somebody else's kid. Like, you're probably right to do it. If somebody's being disrespectful to the DM, you're probably right to stand up and say, hey, mate, DM's talking. You guys are just doing your own thing. If you want to talk, leave. If it's within reason, back down. But I actually had a time where I couldn't hear because I'm old and I'm deaf and I've worked in the industry. So I sort of said, oh, mate, can you guys keep it down? Can you guys keep it down? Can you guys keep it down? Can you? And the next day I actually called up the DM to apologize, to say, hey, man, I overstepped the bounds as a player. Like, that's your table. I was possibly Actually, no, I probably shouldn't tell this story. But yeah, I was a little bit aggressive and basically, yeah, stood up at the table and said, "Hey guys, shut the ball."
All right, so it sounds like a lot of this can be summarized into a few points that I was starting on there.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you think we haven't covered off there before we wrap this thing up, Mitch?
If you're lucky enough to know the people you're playing with and trust them and you're comfortable with them, this video will mean nothing. You guys will find your own way.
Yep.
If you don't have that opportunity and you're building a group and you want the group to build a certain way, be open and honest. If you, as you said earlier, if you don't tell them that you want to do a Critical Role, like hardcore role-playing, tears at the table type D&D campaign, and they rock up to play Warhammer, you guys are going to disagree. Having that discussion and working out who you're DMing for and your target audience and the world you want to create is a big part of it. I, once again, recommend those 3 podcasts, Critical Role, Adventure Zone, Not Another D&D, to help you decide what sort of world you want to live in, what sort of world you want to create, and make sure that your group is on board to live in such a world. But I think that's the biggest thing. Like, once you're comfortable with where you're going or who you're with, I think the adventure writes itself.
Yep. Oh, and as I was just getting to, I guess, if I summarize a lot of into it, it would be get as much experience as you can, both as a player and as a DM. Know as much about the game and the adventure you plan on running as you can for the group. And then finally, be prepared to take control, improvise, run with things, and just see where it takes you. Worst case scenario, you stop and start again. But all in all, if everyone's having fun, doesn't really matter.
Just do it. Do it. Can we play that? Just do it.
Oh, we'll see if we can edit that in.
That's all right. But no, the final thought. If you know the rules of the book and you're fairly confident in how to play, character creation, all that sort of thing, I can't recommend enough going on D&D Beyond or going to D&D Wizards and going to the Sage Advice Compendium. We'll put a link for it. Basically, it's a whole heap of arguments that have been had since the dawn of D&D time for 5th edition, and somebody's gone through and documented the rulings on them. So Moonbeam is a huge one. I've seen a Adventure League party break down 30 minutes in because somebody cast Moonbeam, and the next 2.5 hours was fighting and arguing about when the damage occurs. Does it occur at the start of the round? Does it occur at the start of the enemy's round? Or does it occur both on cast at the start of each round and the enemy's round? I know it sounds crazy, but just reading through the Sage Advice Compendium, which we will link, gives you a big idea into the kinds of arguments you're going to get into and how you will have to just move on until you get an answer and take control of the table. There's no point in arguing the little things. It's not worth it. Just have fun.
Cool. Oh, and with that, I guess I cast Darkness.